But yeah, it's cool, man.
But I realized on my last few ones, I never gave anybody an intro, so they have no context as to who you are. So I'll just intro you quick. But I mean, I figure if you're watching this and you like me, you'll like Joel because we're very similar. We're both tall, dark, and handsome,
Very
lovers of the
handsome.
Lord. Very tall, very dark, very handsome, both of us. So if you like me, you'll like him. But in all seriousness, Joel's like one of my best friends. He's like our cool uncle. He's helped me with a ton of stuff when it comes to relationships. And really, I guess the best way to have me do this is have you kind of explain what exactly it is that you do. I know it's kind of save your marriage is like the brand that you roll with, but in your own words, how would you say what you do for work?
Really what I would do is I help men understand their strengths and weaknesses so that they can improve them, so that they can improve their marriages. That really what it comes down to is a marriage for a man is like the ultimate leadership course
Mhm.
or yeah, it's the ultimate leader is it's the ultimate test of your leadership as a man is to be able to lead your wife and your family. Like it's a lot different than like business because in business it's like there's people who are there who have financial incentive. You have direct power over their jobs, or they want to be there because whatever you're doing, they're into it. So there's this buy-in. But with the family, like your wife had to buy into you, and then your kids come along and they're like, I didn't ask to be here. I'm gonna do what I want. Because I always think about that, like think of like Mike Tyson, right? One of the scariest dudes on the planet. Like 1 and 2 year olds, they don't care who you are or who you think they'll talk crazy to you. They're gonna throw a tantrum. They're gonna do whatever. So it's like the ultimate test of like patience and leadership and getting people to buy into what it is that you're trying to do. So yeah, man, it's one of my favorite things. I didn't think we've talked about this in Bible study. It's not where I would have even planned to have been, but it was just one of those things where people kept on coming to me and asking me about these things where I was like, oh, okay, I should take this seriously instead of an inconvenience like I was taking it before.
Yeah, it seems like it was like one of those callings from God where he like beat you over the head with it. Like beat
Yeah, it's like, why do you keep on sending me these people? I don't even want to. I don't want to talk
you.
to these people. Like, I want to be doing this over here. It's like, no, no, we're, I got this for you. Like, all right, God,
Yeah,
I hear you.
yeah, this is what you're here for. This is what you're here for.
Yeah,
Well, awesome, man. Well, I appreciate the intro. And I mean, obviously, like the big theme is leadership. And obviously, I know I'm pretty well versed on a lot of the questions that I'm going to ask you because I've already asked you a lot of these privately and I have an idea of what your answer is because obviously we've been good friends for like 3 or 4 years now. But I think really my goal of this conversation is to really do like three things in my mind. One is help young guys that are closer to my age and that are unmarried, prevent either picking wrong or prevent just walking into a bad marriage that literally came into it a bad relationship. So I think
Mhm.
help the young guys. And then two, help guys that are already married but are struggling fix that. And then three, guys that are married, once they've fixed it, once they have the healthy marriage, how do they actually maintain that and keep that long term? So I think those are kind of like my three goals in terms of where I want to go. And I think I'll just kind of start with like the young guy perspective. So I kind of want to take like a trip back to young Joel,
Yeah, yeah.
and ask
It wasn't that long ago. We talk
yeah,
about.
young Joel. I know you're like really a lot older than me by a ton, bro.
A lot.
By a lot, like years, right? How old are you actually, Joel?
I'm 42.
You're 42, right? Your birthday
Yeah.
just happened, right? It was Cinco de Mayo.
Yeah, yeah, a month or two ago. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So for context, Joel's 42. I'm 23. I'll turn 24 this year. So that's the context on the age gap. So Joel, like I said, is infinitely older than me. Anyways,
So much older.
going going back to young Joel, I'm curious. I know the story of you and your wife, but I don't think I've ever actually asked you like in detail, like how did you know she was the one?
So we dated, right? So I meet her, we're dated, we're long distance.
Mhm.
And then her parents got divorced. And then we broke up because it really shook her.
Yeah.
She got so we broke up, and so we had a year where we were apart. And then it was like, yeah, this is like there was something special here. Let's try one more time. And either we're gonna make it all the way through or we're not.
Hmm.
And then so we got back together, and my dad got sick. Like he was really sick. He was in the hospital sick, like ICU, like ventilators and stuff. So I was already like in love with her. I was like, oh, I think I'm gonna marry this girl. Like it was like, yeah, this is gonna happen. But she was working like multiple jobs, and she was also a dancer. And so she was going to school because we were still in college at the time. And so she would work her jobs, she would go to school, she would do her dance, and then on Fridays, when she was like done with everything, she would drive down and she would just sit in the hospital with me.
Hmm.
That was so it was like it's like a 6 hour drive
Hmm.
from from she was in Northern California, from Southern California. And so like she did that for weeks. She did that for she would come home and or she'd go to my house and like straighten up the house, and she would like, make us food because we were all at the hospital. And it was like, oh yeah, I'm never gonna leave you now.
Hmm.
I'm never gonna leave you because of what you did. And I know there was already like other things where like I knew it, but that was like the one. It was like, oh yeah, like dating is fun. Anybody can have a good time on vacations. Anybody can have like fun for weekends and be like, oh, like this was a lot of fun. But to be in there and like, oh, this is real life, like sick kids, sick parents, like things not going well, and you're not only are you like there with me, but like you're like literally like there with me. And so that to me was like the like I always felt like, there was so many signs basically of like, oh yeah, she's like wifey material, but that was to me was like yeah, like this is not something that you look at and be like, oh, like you can find this in anybody. Like, no, this is special.
Yeah. And it sounds like even before that, you said you were kind of already aware that you were either falling in love or in love. I guess what specifically about her doing that, whether that be driving down, taking care of the house, like being there by your side, like what specifically about that pushed you over the edge and made you go, like, yeah, this is definitely it? Was it just
Oh,
because like a reflection?
it's just the commitment that
Yeah.
kind of comes with that, right? It's like if you were having a party and you're like, hey, Joel, come to my party, right? It's like, yeah, I'm coming to this fun thing. Like, oh yeah, I'll make a drive for that, right? But if it was like, hey, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna help you, like I'm gonna move or something, right? Like something that sucks. And it was like, yeah, I'll come over and help you move. I was like, oh, okay. Like you're not just here for the good times. Like you're actually here because you value like this relationship that we have.
Hmm.
Because this is something that's actually there's no benefit of it for me. Like there's no benefit of it for me to help you to move except just that like we're friends. Like that so this to me was like there's like no benefit. Like I would have completely understood of like, yeah, like don't come down. All I'm gonna be doing is sitting in the hospital. I'm not gonna ask you to come and sit with me, right? Like we're not doing anything. This is not fun. Like this is not like my family's not in a good place right now. This is not fun. So, but she came anyway. And so it was like, oh, okay. You're committed to not only to me, but to my family. So that went like that went a long way.
Yeah. Yeah. And obviously you see something like that and it shows one, the depth of her character, but I think the biggest thing I'm getting from that is it just showed you just how committed she was to
Mhm.
you, whether it be good or bad. It was the
Right.
commitment was what made you go, oh, this is it.
Yeah. Cause I mean, like, that's the thing where like people are like, you can't vet. It's like, yeah, but life kind of takes care of it. That's why it's like, I don't really ascribe to like, yo, hurry up and get it done. And like, 6 months or a year. It's like it's when you have enough information to make the decision, make the decision. Like this was like year 3 or 4 for us, but we had the benefit of we had met young, so it wasn't like, oh, I'm 28 or 29 years old. Like I think I was like 19 or 20 years old when this happened.
Yeah.
So it was like, oh, okay, I have enough information now. And even then, we still didn't get married until a few years later because we were still really, really young. But um, with the decision to like who you marry, to me, after like if you make after the decision to like follow God or not, like this is the most important decision, who you marry, like financially, quality of life, fitness, like your children, all of that hangs on that decision. So you want you want to get that one right for sure. Like I think that there's there was always like you would see like I would see in the tabloids, right? Like, oh, this celebrity got married and they got married in Vegas and then like a week later they got a divorce. It's like, dude, you're just messing around right now. Like this is not something to mess around with. And then you look at them now and just like Britney Spears was one of them, right? It's like, dude, she's going through it. Like, all the other stuff aside, but it's like there was this one woman. I remember being a kid. Her name was Elizabeth Taylor. She was like this famous movie star. She had been married like 8 times, and I remember being a kid and be like, "I'm never taking any celebrity advice." Like, dude, this is what's going on. Like 8 times, 7 times. Like that's insane. It's insane, man.
And
But I think that just like really like it comes down to like who you are. Like you're like I approach it actually like almost like a football coach. Like I'm an evaluator.
yeah,
I'm going to evaluate talent. Like we got physical characteristics, right? Beauty. Now we have to look at the intangibles. Is this somebody who like I'm a football guy, so it's like is this somebody who like watches film? Is this somebody who's like in the weight room? Is this somebody who like takes care of their diet? Is this somebody who stays out of trouble? Like you got to look at it like that because like some people will get enamored with the physical habit, like, oh, they're fast and they can like, but it's like, dude, they got terrible habits. Like in year 3, this person's gonna get arrested because they party too much. Like,
yeah,
that might be all right if you're a wide receiver, but if like your wife is like the quarterback, like you want somebody who just like lives and breathes ball. So I wanted somebody who was, you know, who loved God and was smitten with me, like couldn't get enough of me. And it was like, yeah, like the woman who is willing to, work all that time and then drive. And then LA traffic sucks, man. This was 20 years ago, but it still sucked. And so she would sit in traffic like to come and just be with me. And it was like, you did all these sucky things just to sit here with me and do another sucky thing just to be with me and my family.
yeah. And I think something that you said kind of earlier is the idea like you're picking. It's probably the second biggest decision you make in your life.
Mm-hmm.
And some people do just pick wrong. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's a thing. And I guess in your mind, like what are the mistakes that you see young guys who are unmarried but pursuing a marriage? Like what are the mistakes that you see them make that lead to picking wrong?
Well, it's just like they get enamored with their beauty, and then you introduce sex too early, and now you get attachment to somebody. Like people say, like that men can have sex and it be like nothing, but it's like no, man, that's like being drunk. Like you're literally releasing chemicals and attaching yourself to that person,
You're on
and
drugs.
so
That's what me
what's
and Gabe
that?
that's what me and Gabe say. We go, you're literally on drugs.
You're literally on drugs. You
Yeah.
really are. Because I mean, it's amazing. Like it's like you do this, it's like, damn, that's awesome. Like I want to keep on doing that. Like hell yeah. Um, so like the guys who like I've worked with who it didn't work out, we always go back to like, hey, when you dated, how was that? It's like, oh yeah, we were having tons of sex. Like, what was your relationship with God? Like, I didn't have one. It's like, yeah, that matters because having really, it's just like again, using the football analogy, like why is there some teams that are always successful? They draft well. Well, why are the other teams not good? It was like they don't draft well. Why? Well, who's doing the picking? Right? It's like why can they over and over get talent and you're picking from the same pool. You're picking from the same pool, but they can identify like who it is and these other teams can't. So that's how I always looked at it. It's like I got to be an evaluator of talent. But first of all, I have to know what I'm looking for. I have to know who I am. So I knew that I didn't want like I'm not saying like my wife never partied and I never went to parties, but not a party girl like who was like always partying or who liked male attention. Like my wife is beautiful, but she never like sought out like she never was like, oh yeah, like these guys like me or like boy crazy. Like that was always like you would see girls and they were like boy crazy. And I don't know if you guys have a different word for that now, but you know, so it is different now with social media. But there's also like there was like this, I don't I don't need the attention, and that was something that I looked for because it was like eventually I'm gonna be old news eventually. As tall, dark, handsome, and funny as I am, there's somebody who's gonna be taller, darker, handsomer, makes more money, stronger, can whip my ass, whatever. But I need her to be like, yeah, like that's like not a thing for her where it's like, oh, like this guy is like into me. You gotta pay attention. Like to me, it's all about just like paying attention. Like, are you really paying attention or are you just getting swept away? When I tell my young guys, it's like you want you want your roots to be so deep in the ground, in your faith, in your values, in who you are. And then your wife can put your head in the clouds. Like that's how I thought of it. Like my wife, I'm in the clouds for her. But my roots were so strong before where it was like I can actually see what are her strengths, what are her flaws. And then when you make the decision with your eyes open. It's not like, oh, I didn't see that coming. It was like, no, like that was there before, or but there was a lot of like good habits. Yeah, I mean, I had my own too. She has to do the same for me, okay? But you know, we're I talk to dudes, and but there's been habits where it's like, dang man, like I didn't I didn't think this was gonna last this long like this. Like this is awesome. Like all right, because there was just but there was like good habits from what I saw when we were dating that have like she didn't she didn't change. Like like my I've like changed in my the way I've expressed my beliefs, but my beliefs have never changed. If that makes sense. Like
Sure.
I've always been who I am, but the way I expressed it is different because I've changed and I've grown, and the same for her. And so that was important. To me, it was, is this somebody who will grow with me, or is this somebody who I'm at the like pull along to help? Because I don't want to be doing any pulling along because I'm going to be doing, you know, I thought I was going to be like teaching and coaching football and like doing all this other stuff, and I was like, I can't be like pulling somebody along. I have to have somebody who's gonna be like, yeah, I'm there with you, and that was really important to me.
Yeah. And I think the big takeaway there is that there's obviously a vetting process. Like there is,
Yeah, yeah,
right? And
yeah,
I like that you use the draft analogy. Some people might think that's crude, but I know where you're coming
yeah,
from. I know the
yeah,
part. It's
yeah,
not crude. It's just like it's an example, and it's a good analogy. It's easy to understand, right? So
yeah,
if somebody gets offended by that, well,
yeah.
they probably don't
Well,
like.
so this is yeah. So this is actually how I used to talk to my friends. All right, it's like so I'm a big college football guy. It's like I'm looking for Heisman caliber players.
Yeah.
Okay, and it was like I would be like, dude, you're over here messing with scout team players. Okay, like I'm not wasting my time with that caliber. I'm looking for a Heisman. All right, I'm looking for all time great. That's what I'm looking for. But that was so like I didn't date a lot because it was like nope, like doesn't meet the beauty standard, or I was like like I just wouldn't get along with her or whatever. So it was like for me to pay attention to you, like you had to be worth paying attention to. If not, like I have other things to do. And I think that's really important too for the young guys is what is your work with the thing that you're working on for yourself. Like like you guys are really big into your business. I love that because it's like you're so into your business that the woman who gets your attention has to be awesome first of all for you to be like, oh, yo, I need to know, I need to check this out. So that's already like already a high bar. But it's like if you don't have anything going on, I think that's dangerous because it's like now you're looking to get almost fulfillment through this relationship or this woman, and that's not a healthy place to be as from a standpoint of being to lead, because you're coming from you can't lead when you're coming from a place of need. That's a banger right there. I'm about to write that one down.
You got to write that up. You got to put that on a
Yeah,
bullet.
but it's true. Like you can't lead people you need from, right? God does not lead us from a place of need. A husband can't lead his wife from a place of need. You can't lead your kids if you need something from your kids. My kids can't give anything to me. I give to them.
It seems like it's mostly a you thing. Like it's a you thing, right? And I think that's something that I've always kind of conceptualized talking to you too. Like, or at least that's something I've pulled away is like I got to get myself straight. I got to have my ducks in a row, and that's a big thing. And I think it's a step that's overlooked. But then on the other side of it too, I guess something that we can transition to that's like super practical for these young guys. Kind of the last thing to tie up kind of the young guy conversation is like once you do have your ducks in a row and you're looking for your Heisman, like what is that kind of short list in your mind? I know you've named a few things. I know you've helped me with this, but just to share it for the people listening, like what does that short list actually look like in terms of, finding your your Heisman candidate?
What do you mean, like before you pull the trigger?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, well, I mean, I guess it's like for me, the big thing was like she was so I think you have to be like sexually attracted, like very attracted
Yeah.
to your wife. Like that to me is a non-negotiable. To me, it's cruel to not be attracted to her. Okay, so that actually like I would like put that like first. Okay,
It's fine.
and, because it's like, dude, there's been arguments or like conversations we have, and it was like this can be an argument, but it's like, you know what? You look good. Like, show me your boobs. It's like, all right, this is over.
Yeah.
That literally just happened yesterday. I was like, oh man, I'm mad. I was being grumpy. It's like, show me your boobs. Like, all right, cool, we're done. All right, we're good. You know what I mean? Like it's just such a it does it like she does it for me. She
Yeah.
does it for me. Um, but she loves God. Like she loves God on her own for her own. So when we were broken up, that she owned her relation, and that was important to me because it was you don't love God just because it's like you're trying to appease me.
Yeah.
You're doing it because you love God for your own because you own your faith. And that's been super important because now when we talk to our kids, she owns the faith. It's not like, oh, we'll go talk to your dad. It's like, no, like here's what we believe. And she actually says it better than I do. And I'm like, dang, that's pretty good. Like, all right. So those to me were just like the two big like the big things. And then from there it was like we both had this idea of that we just always want to get better. Like to me that was like, okay, this is where we're at. And she's actually my wife is actually from like a higher like she was like upper middle class and I was like lower middle class. So I always wanted like I always kind of had this like, yo, I'm gonna grind and get better. But she had it. She had it too. So it was those I think those like were the big three like were reconnected for us. But then even when it all came down to it though, it was just man, I really just enjoyed her company. I really just like she's my favorite person. Um I remember like just like having this like I'm a peaceful person, right? There's no like well there was like an anxiousness to me because like there's just like energy of like fire in my belly. But when I was with her, it was just like, man, I could just stay here with you forever. And I was like at peace. And it's like it might be sound kind of weird because like, yo, I'm a believer in God is my peace, but it was like really this felt like being with her. Like yesterday, she was like, man, because we have six kids. I don't know if people know that, but we just had our sixth, and so we're
That's
taking separate car.
Army.
Yeah, so we take separate cars because we're like running kids to different places now, and even if we are going to the same place now, we're taking two separate cars. And she was just like, man, I just want to like go to Costco with you. Like that's what she's like. She's like, I just want to go to Costco with you, and I want to be in the same car, and I want to be passenger princess. And I was like, oh, I know, mama. But it's just like, but like that like we don't have to do anything. Like I didn't come like there was no like fancy like, oh, we're gonna go take these exotic vacations when we were dating. It was just like, no, like I get to see you Like that's like like this is the getting to see you is the vacation. Being able just to be with you in your house is the vacation. Being able to talk to you is the like the reward. And so all those things were things that just like for me made it like to me like some guys are like, oh, when the day they get married I'm like super nervous. I was like, I wasn't nervous at all. Like the only thing I was nervous was just like I just wanted like the day to go well and like there not to be like any kind of family drama, but like the actual like point of like, oh, I'm getting married and I'm marrying this woman was like super peaceful, super easy. Like it's like of course, like I've been waiting for this. I've been wanting for this for years because we wait it you know we met so young that it took years to get to the point where we did get married, but even then it was still you know we were still really young.
Yeah. And I think that kind of like in terms of timeline, that takes you to that point where, hey, like now you've married this woman, and obviously marriage is work. And the guys that you work with, I feel like you end up working with some young guys too, like myself and
Mm-hmm.
Gabe and
Mm-hmm.
the other guys. But is the majority of your clientele guys that are already married and struggling? Is that kind of
Yeah.
how it works out? Okay.
Yeah.
So I guess from that perspective, like when you see that happening where, hey, like we've made this choice and you've even picked right, but marriage is just work and sometimes it's hard and there's fighting and there's things like that. And I know I'm sure you've worked with guys where sometimes the D word's coming up, and that's probably a
Mm-hmm.
lot of your guys. How do you fix that?
So that's a good question. And we always, so whenever we do our coaching, I never talk to the wives. I only talk to the husbands.
Hmm.
It's always going back and going back to, again, what are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What did you do when you were dating? Like, you got this woman to marry you. She married you for a reason. One of my favorite things to say, like I had a guy who was like, I asked him like, hey, let's list like 10 things that you like about your wife, and he's like, I can't think of any. And I was like, dude, does your wife have good taste? And he was like, I don't know. I was like, she picked you, right? And he was like, oh yeah, yeah, she's got good taste. Yeah,
Yes.
it's like yeah, she you know she said yes to you, so she obviously has good taste, right? And it's like finding those things to be grateful for. But a lot of it, a lot of the work is just like figuring out who you are. Like you're actually going like keeping the sports analogy, like you're going into a game and you don't even know where you're supposed to be. Like sometimes like people will kind of get it intuitively, but to kind of see it, like I have a process that we go through, and it's just like, okay, like this is how you operate, right? Like, yeah, that actually is how I operate, and like this is where you're really good at, right? And it's like, yeah, I actually am really good at that, and it's like this is kind of where you struggle. It's like, oh, I do, so this is what you should be doing, or this is what you're, and then one of the common scenarios that happens is like where the man is weak at, the woman is strong at, and so she actually needs where he's weak at, like she needs more of that and she's not getting it. So like a classic example is like the guy who like owns his own business or is like a really high powered CEO can like just direct and command people at work, and that works really well. But then when he comes home, he's still operating in that same manner. And it's like that's your wife. You can't operate in that same way. She needs the tenderness and the care. And so uh, that is probably like the most common scenario that I run into with most guys that come to me. It's they're very hard charging, very direct, almost abrasive, and that works at work to drive results. God bless you, do that. But then when they come home, they're still operating in that same manner, and it's hey, like this is your wife, like she needs the tenderness and the care, and they think that oh like I'm bringing in a great income and I provide and I you know put my kids in all these activities, shouldn't that be enough? And it's like no, like a good woman is not marrying you for those reasons, she's marrying you for you. But somehow that gets lost because of you know the pressure of that they have at work and the kids, that tenderness kind of gets that they would have given when they were dating because they were like enamored, right? Or in like the honeymoon stage. So it's like, yeah, like the ooh baby baby, like they give that. But after, you know, 12 years, it's not ooh baby baby. It's like, oh, like, yeah, of course, like you get used to it. And that I think is like a human nature thing where here you have this thing that you kind of like wanted and prayed for, and you got it, and yeah, you were super grateful for it, but then it just becomes like the new normal, right? It's just like guys who go from like making no money to like 10K a month, like, oh wow, but now I want to get the 20K, like you always trying to like move that to get that new like high almost. Well, with your wife, it's like, well, like she's old news. And it's like, no, you got to go back to how you were when you dated. Like that's where you're almost like you don't want to say that that was the best version that your wife got was when you dated. Like she should be getting the best version of you now. And now she needs you to to identify these areas and give her those things. Like one of my favorite passages in the Bible is when Moses asks God his name, and God tells him, I am, meaning I am your provider, I am your defender, I am your protector, I am your comforter. And that's how a man has to be in the marriage. The I am. What does your wife need? Well, she needs me to provide. Yes. She needs you to protect her. Yes. She needs to show you, she needs to see that you care about her, just like God cares about us. And so that's where like a lot of the process is that we go through is where are you? Because it's different for most guys, but that I was like that's like like my classic scenario though of like high power direct and then low care almost, and she needs to know that you care about her.
So you're telling me you can't have KPIs for your wife?
I mean, there was a guy, dude, who was like, I saw it was like he had a spreadsheet and it was like he tracked every time like his wife said yes or no to him. It's like no wonder she doesn't want to have sex with you, man. Like, dude, you suck. You suck. Like my wife won't have sex with me. It's like, dude, you little weenie.
That's what I was thinking of the whole time. I was just imagining some guy you work with, a CEO, comes home and he's like got his KPI board up for
Yeah,
his
man.
wife. He's,
It's like, dude, they want to feel like it actually is probably harder to be married. I think about that. It's probably harder to be married now. There's more distractions. Like like a woman doesn't really need you, but man, if you can make her feel like make her like feel alive, make her feel cared for, make her feel like that's what the magic is. You got no problems going to Bone Town, baby.
no problem going to Bone Town. Put it on a bulletin board.
Put it on there.
I think to kind of wrap up, I think a good place to kind of finish is along those lines because I feel like Bone Town may be involved in this answer of
Hmm.
how do you sustain that healthy marriage, or maybe what are some things that you've done just in your marriage that have been super helpful ways for you guys to just maintain the health of the marriage, that guys who are maybe going through the fixing phase or maybe have gotten through the fixing phase and they're like, how do I keep this? How do I make sure that it stays this way or as close to it as I can? What are some things that you've done or
it's
that,
it's like it's really the commitment to change.
yeah.
So like I think about like is the version of me that she had 5, 10 years ago better than this version of me?
Mm,
And so like 10 years ago, it's like I wasn't working out. I was unhappy in my job. Like I wouldn't go pay for haircuts. It was just like what is the appeal here?
mm,
Right. So it was just like taking those things like so I think it's great that guys like a lot of the guys that I have they're already fit because they cut some of them have come through your guys' program. So that's always like a big thing to me is like the fitness and just like taking care of your physical appearance because it's just like I even though like I wasn't like fit, but I always like carried myself in a way to be respected though because I've always been anchored in my faith. But to go back to the answer, it's like that commitment to like I want to be the best version of myself for me first. So what is it that I have working on? Like I'm in my 40s. I don't feel old because I still feel like I have fire in my belly. Like there's still things that I'm like, oh yeah, hell yeah, I want to get after. I want to get after it. And I think that was always attracted to my wife because it was like there was always I always had this fire in my belly for whatever. Like it was like, like for my family, she sees me playing with the kids, for her, for my faith. Like I've always had that fire in my belly. And I think that's really, really important to keep that. And then for her, like I've always been super supportive in like the things that she's wanted to do. So like the thing is like like this might be young guys old, but like what we thought was gonna be like on the front end hasn't been on the back end. Like I always tell people, like the day that I married her, if you told me I was gonna have 6 kids, I would be like, bro, you're crazy. That's not me. Like, yo, no, like what do you what would you say that to me for? Like that would have been like, why would you say that to me?
You're
But
like, yo, what?
yeah, but it's like in the process of like seeing her give birth and like the pregnancies and the kids and stuff, it's like, man, like we really like having baby. Like I knew I always loved kids, but I didn't like think that like that was it was gonna be like this. But this is kind of like the way it developed. Um, so it was like she was working. We were planning on her working still, but she went to work and she was like, "Yo, I can't be away from the baby." And it was like, "Oh, okay, then come home." But that wasn't the original plan. So just to be flexible with things, but also to have like a strong vision of like what it is that you want to do. And I think that's really going back to answer the question is like have a strong vision of actually who you are, who you want to be, and then what you want your home to be like. How do you want your wife to? I always think of like I want my wife to be like, damn, I can't wait for Joel. Like I can't get enough of him. And I'm always like telling her, like I'm always talking dirty to her, like, dang, you can't get enough of me. Like so I'm like that's how I want it. That's how I want to be. Like, yo, you want this. And then it's like, damn, baby, I can't get enough of that. Like that's how I want it to be, like super, super affectionate. Because like that to me creates a good environment for my kids where like, oh yo, like marriage is like nice. But it's not even so much like, yeah, that's like a benefit of it, but it's just like this is just how I want to be. Like this is how it look like I got one life. She's my favorite person. This is how I want it to be. So this is how I act. This is why I say like crazy things to her. Like people be like, "Oh, you say that to your wife?" Like, yeah, man, that's how crazy. But that's part, and that part of her, like that's what like kind of like takes her aback too. It's like, oh dang, Joel says crazy stuff, like, and she'll like roll her eyes and stuff, but she likes it. She likes it. But being committed to like who it is that you want to be, like it really is that game. Like that is the game of like, okay, like just like fat loss, right? Like you can go in the program and you can lose the weight for that 3 months, but are you really committed to like keeping those same habits, right? So like for us, like we don't do a lot of date nights, but for me it's like, hey, where can I find places to take things off of her plate? Where are places where I can support her to do the things that she wants to do? That's kind of where we're at. That's what that looks like. And it's different, and it's different for everybody, and that's why it's like you want to go through the process.
Yeah, that's good, man. I know that obviously like opens up a rabbit hole of like communication and things like that. Then we started
Hmm.
touching on, you having an army of children. My bonus time questions were in relation to fatherhood, but I know we're bumping up on time, so we'll save it for a part two or something. But
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, man, I appreciate you being here. And just for the people listening that don't know you, I know most of them will probably already know you. Where can people find you, Joel?
You can find me on Twitter at the Joel Lopez, TheJoelLopez, and I think that's the same one on Instagram. I'm not as active on Instagram, but I have one, so I think that's what it is there also. So those are the two places you can find me the
Oh yeah,
most.
that's the IG. I've been
Yeah.
seeing Joel Lopez on my
And
Instagram feed.
then the other place you can find me is on the Wednesday Bible study with you guys. So I don't know if there's a link for, I don't know if
Oh
you can go
yeah,
there, but
open
yeah, yeah,
invite. Just
yeah,
message either of us somewhere, and
yeah,
you can get the link. I'm not gonna
yeah,
post the link, but you
yeah,
can
yeah,
message me and get it though.
yeah, yeah.
That's it. Thanks for being here, brother.
All right, love you, man.
Oh, you did.